Bhagav Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Agyana Timirandasya Agyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pricharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Eva Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna
Hare Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare
Hare
Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we continue our reading of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. We are on chapter 18, text 12. As last week we finished till text 11. So we are on text 12. Would somebody like to read the Sanskrit?
Yeah, I can read.
Okay.
Anishtam ishtam mishram cha trividham karmana phalam bhavati atyaginam preyata natu sannyasit vyakchitah.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. So for one who is not renounced, one moment, sorry. Okay, so for one who is not renounced, the threefold fruits of action, desirable, undesirable, and mixed, accrue after death. But those who are in the renounced order of life have no such result to suffer or enjoy. So, purport, a person in Krishna consciousness acting in knowledge of his relationship with Krishna is always liberated. Therefore, he does not have to enjoy or suffer the results of his acts after death. So here Krishna is clearly saying that whatever activities we do in devotional service, there is no reaction to it. We do not have to take another birth for that. So that's the reason we are always encouraged to engage in devotional service, so that we do not have to take another birth again to suffer or enjoy or for our actions, because every action has to have a reaction. It cannot be that any action we do does not have a reaction, but only our actions in bhakti yoga, devotional service, which begins by hearing and chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and hearing from the Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, only those actions will not have any reactions. So any intelligent person should try to become a devotee of Krishna so that they don't have to take another birth to suffer or enjoy. Text 13. Would somebody like to read the Sanskrit?
I
I
can
can read.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, please.
Okay. पञ्चैतानि महाबाहो कारणानि निबोध मे सांख्ये कृतान्ते प्रोक्तानि सिद्धये सर्वकर्मणाम्.
O mighty Arjuna, according to the Vedanta, there are 5 causes for the accomplishment of all action. Now learn of these from me. So now Krishna is saying that any action that we do has 5 causes. We always think I'm the cause. This, I'm so great. It's because of me I did this. Look what I'm capable of doing. See how many good things I can do. But Krishna is saying there are 5 causes for any action. A question may be raised that since any activity performed must have some reaction, how is it that the person in Krishna consciousness does not suffer or enjoy the reactions of work? The Lord is citing Vedanta philosophy to show how this is possible. He says that there are 5 causes for all activities. And for all success in all activity, one should consider these 5 causes. Sankhya means the stock of knowledge, and Vedanta is the final stock of knowledge, accepted by all leading acharyas. Even Shankara accepts Vedanta Sutra as such. Therefore, such authority should be consulted. So here Krishna is going to explain that why when we engage in devotional service, there's no reaction, and what are the 5 causes of any action that we do. We always thinking that we are the doer. I can do this and I can do that. But actually there are five causes. The ultimate control is invested in the super soul. As it is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Sarvasya Chaham Hridi Sanivishta. He is engaging everyone in certain activities by reminding him of his past actions. And Krishna conscious acts done under his direction from within yield no reaction, either in this life or in the life after death. So Krishna is sitting as Paramatma within our heart. He says that in Bhagavad Gita chapter 15, that I am the super soul and from me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. So he's the one who keeps reminding us that, oh, this was your desires in your past life. This was your desires yesterday. So when we wake up in the morning, we continue with those activities because Krishna, as the Paramatma, he reminds us. So if we have desire to get to know what's the truth, who is God, then Krishna within the heart, he gives us that intelligence to associate with the devotees, and he will also make arrangement for us to come in contact with the devotees so that we can actually get to know him, because he's our best friend. He's the best well-wisher in everyone's heart.
So will Krishna tell the 5 causes for all the activities in the later, like in the coming?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And one thing more, in the previous one, there is one line. Can we please go on that?
Yes.
Yeah, this one.
No, this is...
Oh, sorry. This is not. Yeah. There is this one that, he says that for success in activity, one should consider these 5. Sankhya means the stock of knowledge.
Yeah.
And Vedanta is the final stock of. So can you please explain this one a little?
Sankhya knowledge is the knowledge where we break down all the material elements. We break down what is this material world of, and then we break it down. What is this thing, whole material world made of? We are so enamored, so bewildered by what's happening here. But if we break it down, Sankhya philosophy breaks down everything into earth, water, air, fire, ether. These are the gross elements. Then the 3 subtle elements, mind, intelligence, and false ego. Then the senses, eyes, ears, nose, skin, and the mouth, right? So the 5 senses. Then we have the 5 working senses, 5 knowledge acquiring senses. So like that is Sankhya knowledge, Sankhya philosophy. And Vedanta, Ved means knowledge, Anta means end of knowledge. So Vedanta, the end of knowledge, is to know that Govindam Adipurusham Tam Aham Bhajami, that, oh my dear Lord Govinda, you are my seed-giving father. That is the end of knowledge. When we come to Krishna, that is the end of knowledge. Our research work is finished. No more need to do any more research work. Then when we come to Krishna, what we have to do is engage in bhakti, hear and chant about him, try to understand his activities, pastimes. That's what is stated here.
And in this one, they mean that even the Sankara accepts Vedanta Sutra, Sankhya. What is this?
Shankaracharya.
Okay, that is Shankaracharya. Okay, he also accepts this Vedanta Sutra.
Yes, because he's the one who made the impersonalist philosophy that that everything is Brahman, the impersonal Brahma Jyoti. Shankaracharya, actually he's Lord Shiva. Krishna sent Lord Shiva to come and bewilder the atheist in this impersonal philosophy, saying that everything is light. That is the service of Lord Shiva, which he did. But Shankaracharya, in his later stage of life, he did tell his devotees that worship Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam Mudamatehe. That just worship Govinda. He said that Narayan is separate. He's not Maya. Narayan is above Maya. But his followers don't accept his teaching. Many of his followers. But anyway, that was the service that Shankaracharya came to do, to cover up the people, the atheist people's intelligence, because people who really don't want to know Krishna, then Krishna hides himself. He does not want to reveal himself to the people who don't want to know the truth. It's like us, he's like us. If somebody does not want to know properly about us, we don't tell them what we like, what we don't like. You know, we maintain we are very cold towards them. We don't have warm, friendly relations. So Krishna is same way like that. Is that okay?
Yeah, perfectly fine. Thank you.
Okay, welcome. Hare Krishna. So text 14. Did we read the Sanskrit?
I can read. Niyama, you want to read?
I can try.
Okay.
Or you can do this one, I'll do next one. You can do
Okay.
this one. Okay, thank you.
अधिष्ठानं तथा कर्ता करणं च पृथग्विधं विविधा च पृथक् चेष्टा दैवं चैवात्र पञ्चमम्.
Okay, the place of action, the body, the performer, the various senses, the many different kinds of endeavor, and ultimately the super soul. These are the 5 factors of action. So Krishna was telling to Arjuna in the previous verse that there are 5 causes of action. Now he's telling him what are the 5 causes. So the word adhishthana refers to the body. The soul within the body is acting to bring about the results of activity and is therefore known as karta, the doer. That the soul is the knower and the doer is stated in the Shruti. Esha hi drishta shashta Prashna Upanishad 4.9. So, you know, we are thinking we are doing. So now what are the 5 things? So Krishna is saying first is the body. If we didn't have the body, we wouldn't be able to do anything. Right? And actually this body also, each and every action of this body is under the control of different demigods. Even blinking our eyes is under the control of particular demigods. The lifting of our hands, the ability to chew the food, everything is controlled. But it happens so fast and it's so automatic. We think, oh, I'm doing it, you know. I'm the one who's doing it. The soul in the body only desires. We just desire. Everything else is being taken care of. So it is also confirmed in the Vedanta Sutra by the verses Nyod Ata Eva 2.3.18 and Karta Shastra Tha Vatat 2.3.33. The instruments of actions are the senses, and by the senses, the soul acts in various ways. For each and every action, there is a different endeavor. But all one's activities depend on the will of the super soul, who is seated within the heart as a friend. The Supreme Lord is the super cause. Under these circumstances, he who is acting in Krishna consciousness, under the direction of the super soul, situated within the heart, is naturally not bound by any activity. Those in complete Krishna consciousness are not ultimately responsible for their actions. Everything is dependent on the supreme will, the super soul, the supreme personality of Godhead. So what happens is we desire something. We, the soul, we are in the body. So we desire something. For example, maybe we desire, it could be anything. I want to eat a mango. That's my desire. Then with the body, with this body that we have, I'll go to the market, buy the mango. And then we have the senses. So with the senses, with my eyes, I will choose which mango I want to eat. With my hands, I'll pick it up. Then I'll cut it. I'll actually eat it. So there is all this effort is required. So first is my desire of the soul. Then we are using the body to fulfill this desire. Then the various senses come into, they take their, they participate in this endeavor. Then finally what happens is ultimately the super soul. Only when the sanction comes from the super soul, everything starts acting. For example, I have the desire to get up and go to the market to buy the mango. So I have to start walking. I have to get up and start walking. So then there is a demigod in charge of this. So Krishna in the heart, he sends the signal to the demigod. Okay, this person wants to get up now. So let him get up. Make him get up now. And then the demigod will act. So the final permission is coming from the super soul. He's the one who tells the demigods, and then the demigods move our body. We can see that there are so many people that they have all the limbs of the body, everything is there, but they're not able to move. They have their hands, legs, eyes, ears, but some of them are not able to talk. Some of them are not able to walk. How can be then? If they are the controller and doer, then in spite of having the legs, why can't they walk? In spite of having the mouth, why can't they talk? Because the will, the final sanction comes from the Supreme Lord. So these are the 5 types, 5 things that are responsible. But then it does not mean that we can say that, okay, I'm going to do something bad, and anyway, it's not my responsibility, you know. Anyway, there are 5 causes for it. No. Our desire is what starts the action. It's because of our desire that the whole chain starts. The action will complete because the Krishna gives the final permission to do it. But it starts because we have the desire. Because I had the desire to eat the mango, then finally I will go to the market, cut it, and then I will eat it. So Krishna helps me in the process of getting to the market and then cutting the mango and eating it and also digesting it. But the desire came from me that I want to eat the mango. So then I'm responsible for every action. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So then it goes to show, because we are always thinking, oh, see how good I am, so great I am, I did it, you know, I did it. I'm the one who is so great. I can do such wonderful things. Nobody else can do like these things. You know, we have, many of us have that. We have that pride. We do something good and then we say, oh, it's all because of me, you know, I'm such a great person. But actually it's everything, only thing we do is desire. That's the only thing. Even our capability to do the things is given by Krishna. Krishna says that I'm the ability in man. So he's giving us the capability to do the things that we are doing. You know? So only thing we do is desire.
I have a question, Shilpaji.
Yes, please.
Which demigod tells us, like, our consciousness that we have to move or we have to go and fulfill our desire?
No, desire comes from the soul.
Okay, and you said something of like demigod gives you some, like,
Yeah.
I didn't understand that point.
Okay, so the desire comes from me. I'm the soul inside this body. So I will get the desire. I have the desire, I want to eat a mango. So then I have to get up from my chair, get up and start walking, right? So my legs have to move. So then Krishna, who's the Paramatma in my heart, he understands I have this desire to eat a mango. So then he will tell the demigod who is in charge of to help me to get up, the demigod in charge to help me to walk, demigod to charge to move my hands.
So you mean to say there are different demigods for each and every of our body part to move,
yes,
to be able to move, right?
Yes, that's why there's 33 crores demigods. You know, there's 33 crores demigods, no? So each of them are in charge of certain activity.
Okay.
Yeah, so even our blinking of eyes, it's in charge of a certain demigod. You know, and today I was hearing from Guru Maharaj his talk on Brihad Bhagavatamrita. Brihad Bhagavatamrita is like a summary study or postgraduate study of Srimad Bhagavatam. So in there, it was saying he was saying, because Lord Shiva, he's in charge of our false ego, you know. And then, so how to please Lord Shiva? And then he was saying how all the different demigods, the different demigods in charge of our eyes, and then there's demigods in charge of our nose and hands. And then how to please these demigods. These demigods actually feel happy when we use the senses in the service of Krishna. So how is the best way to please Lord Shiva is, because he's in charge of our false ego. When we are situated in the ego of, I am a servant of Krishna, and we act in that position, that's the way we please Lord Shiva. So then there is a demigod in charge of the eyes. So how do we please that demigod? The best way to please that demigod is use these eyes to see the deity of Krishna, to read the Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. That's the way we please the demigods also. When we are using our senses in what we are in charge of, in the service of Krishna. So everybody gets happy. Krishna gets happy, we get happy, and the demigods who are in charge of these functions, they also get happy. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. So text 15. Neha, you wanted to read?
I'll read. शरीरवान् मनोभिर्यत् कर्म प्रभावते नरः ज्ञानं वा विपरीतं वा पंचैत तस्य हेतवः.
Whatever right or wrong action a man performs by body, mind, or speech is caused by these 5 factors. The words right and wrong are very significant in this verse. Right work is work done in terms of the prescribed directions of the scriptures. And wrong work is work done against the principles of the scriptural injunctions. But whatever is done requires these 5 factors for its complete performance. So here, right action means when we are acting according to the Vedas, acting according to the scriptures, what is mentioned. And wrong action is whatever we are doing which is not supposed to be done. So all the illicit activities, the sinful activities, those are all wrong actions. Then the right actions are all the whatever the Vedas prescribe, how a person should act, how it shouldn't act. And of course, the best, highest thing the Vedas prescribe, hear and chant about Krishna. That is transcendental. But we should avoid doing sinful activities, because when we commit sinful activities, they keep us in this material world for a long, long time. So as we say, right action and wrong action. Suppose I'm sick and I go to the doctor. I have a stomach disease. So I go to the doctor and I tell him, I have this problem with my stomach. What does he do? He says, okay, take this medicine. Okay, so that's the right action. He says, take this medicine. And then he says, along with the medicine, don't eat this, don't eat that, don't do this, and don't do that. Okay, that's what he will tell me. He'll say, don't eat fried, don't eat spicy, whatever. Don't eat too late at night, eat light food, eat. So he'll tell me what to do and what not to do. So similarly, the right action to do is Bhakti Yoga, hearing and chanting of the holy name, hearing and chanting from Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. And then we should not do the wrong action. And what is that wrong action? We should not indulge in meat eating, no illicit sex, no gambling, and no intoxication. So the doctor, he gives us the medicine, the right action, and he tells us don't do those wrong actions. Why? So that we can come back to our normal state in the shortest time possible with the least suffering. If we don't follow the doctor, what happens is our disease continues for a longer time. So because the disease is continuing for a longer time, we suffer for a longer time. So that's the reason the devotees is prescribed. Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita prescribe. You hear and chant and you don't do the wrong actions so that we don't need to suffer for a longer time here. Very quickly, we can be purified and go back home, back to Godhead, to quickly put an end to this material existence. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Text 16. So that's the reason that we are advised to do Bhakti Yoga, which begins by hearing and chanting the Hare Krishna mantra and hearing and chanting from Bhagavad Gita Bhagavatam. And that's the reason we are advised to stop committing sinful activities. It's for this reason. So for our betterment, to quickly help us to release us from the suffering, for us to quickly become peaceful, happy in this life, and put an end to our material existence and achieve our spiritual body in the next life. Okay, so text 16. Would somebody like to read it?
I can read.
Okay.
तत्रैवं सति कर्तारम् आत्मानं केवलं तु यः पश्यत्य कृतबुद्धित्वान् न स पश्यति दुर्मतिः.
Therefore, one who thinks himself the only doer, not considering the 5 factors, is certainly not very intelligent and cannot see things as they are. So here Krishna is telling Arjuna that one who thinks that everything is happening because of himself only is not very intelligent. We have to consider all these causes which are involved. A foolish person cannot understand that the super soul is sitting as a friend within and conducting his actions. Although the material causes are the place, the worker, the endeavor, and the senses, the final cause is the Supreme, the personality of Godhead. Therefore, one should see not only the 4 material causes, but the supreme efficient cause as well. One who does not see the Supreme thinks himself to be the doer. So, even if the body is there, the soul, the desire is there, the senses are there, the endeavor is the capability to endeavor is there. If Krishna's will is not there, we won't be able to do anything. That's the reason there is a phrase that not even a blade of grass can move without the sanction of the Lord. It's because Krishna's will is important in everything. Only when he sanctions can we do it. But then we might say, oh, so that means all the bad that's happening in the world is because God is making it happen. You see, we like to point fingers at God very easily without trying to understand what is our actions. What did I do because of which I'm suffering the reaction today? It's like a small child who keeps on crying and irritating his father. No, give me a sweet right now. I need a sweet. The father saying, no, it's late at night. You're gonna, spoil your appetite. You're gonna get too much sugar in the body right now. You won't be able to sleep. You'll have a tummy ache. But the child keeps on insisting, no, I want it. Give it to me. Give it to me. And the child starts throwing a tantrum. Finally, what will the father do? Okay, take it. So Krishna is like that. He's a kind father. He usually does not give us the things which are bad for us, like a good father does. But some of us, and sometimes, or most of us at some time or the other, we become too insistent. No, I don't care, it's good or bad for me. I want it. So because we want it, then we have to either suffer or enjoy the reactions of it. Because every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Every action. So it's based on our desire. Everything based on our desires. So we have to purify our desires. We should purify our desires. We should try to have the desire. Yes, I want to also become a devotee of Krishna. What is it that a devotee does? Let me try to find out. Let me also become a devotee of Krishna. So we should try to purify our desires. Okay, text 17.
I'll read.
Okay.
यस्य नाह कृत भावो बुद्धिर्यस्य न लिप्यते हत्वापि सा इमुल्लोकान् नाहन्ति न निबध्यते.
One who is not motivated by false ego, whose intelligence is not entangled, though he kills men in this world, does not kill, nor is he bound by his actions. Oh, what is this? It means I can go along killing and means I'm not killing? Well, let's see what Krishna says. In this verse, the Lord informs Arjuna that the desire not to fight arises from false ego. Arjuna thought himself to be the doer of action, but he did not consider the supreme sanction within and without. If one does not know that a super sanction is there, why should he act? But one who knows the instruments of work, himself as the worker, and the Supreme Lord as the supreme sanctioner, is perfect in doing everything. So Arjuna thought himself to be the doer. That's why he said, "Oh Govinda, I shall not fight." Because he thought, oh, I'm going to be fighting. I'm going to be killing these people. All the sinful reactions are going to come on me. So he started thinking, I am the doer. And that is where our false ego steps in, where we think it's because of me. But Krishna is saying that instead of thinking that we are the doer, we should try to become instrument of Krishna. That I am in this position, and then I'm in this position, and it is I just have to do it as a part of Krishna. Krishna has put me in this position, so I just have to act according to what is required to be done, without putting my personal ego, my personal agenda into anything. You know, for example, if we are in a family life thinking, I'm the one who's doing it for my children, I'm doing this for my spouse, I'm doing like that, we can think, well, I'm in this position, Krishna has given me this beautiful family to take care of, so I'm being an instrument of Krishna to take care of them, to give them Krishna's love, like that. You know, we just have to put ourselves out of the picture and put Krishna in the picture, whereas we are always expert putting ourselves in the center and taking Krishna away. You know, we are very expert in that. So such a person is never in illusion. Now we are here because we do that. We put ourselves in the center. That's why we are here. So slowly, slowly, we have to try to put Krishna in the center, relate the things to Krishna. Personal activity and responsibility arise from false ego and godlessness, or a lack of Krishna consciousness. So we can see now Krishna has given us this family. So we are in with this family, how much ever life we have, you know, whatever is our lifespan. What happens to these souls before we were born and after we die? They're going to continue to exist. They're going to have their own independent lives. They'll still continue to have with different people, with different souls. So where is that I'm doing things for this person goes then, you know? So anyone who is acting in Krishna consciousness under the direction of the super soul or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even though killing does not kill, nor is he ever affected by the reaction of such killing. So here is because Krishna was telling Arjuna, you fight. I'm telling you to fight. So if we just follow Krishna's orders, there is no sinful reaction. Krishna says, give up all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. And I will deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. Krishna keeps saying that, don't fear, just follow me. Just do what I'm telling you to do. You know, so that's why there was not going to be any sinful reaction for Arjuna, even though he's going to kill. Now, we can't kill people because we are not Kshatriyas. It's not our duty to kill. You know, we have to act according to whatever duty we are placed in society. Nor is he ever affected by the reaction of such killing. When a soldier kills under the command of a superior officer, he's not subject to be judged. But if a soldier kills on his own personal account, then he is certainly judged by a court of law. So if a soldier, he's in the military, and then he's drafted for the war, and he's killing, there's so many thousands of people, but they're not going to try him for murder. They're not going to put him in prison. But the same soldier, after he comes back from the war, if he's just walking on the street by himself one day, he's not on duty, and he starts killing people, they'll immediately put him in jail, and they're going to try him for murder. So what's the difference? The activity is the same, killing, but what's the difference? One, was he was acting on behalf of the government. He's in the military, so it's his duty to fight. It is his duty to protect, fight for his country. And the second, he's acting on his own, because of his own desire. The activity is the same. So same, for us also, our activities are the same. We don't need to change our activity. We have to change our consciousness that I'm doing this activity, I'm doing my duty because I'm in this position. Somehow or the other, I'm in this position. So let me do my duty for the pleasure of Krishna. Is that okay?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. So can we stop here and then we can chant? If that's okay?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. So I'm gonna